Hello and welcome to the Sailing My Magic channel. My name is Duke and I'm solo sailing my 2015 Lagoon Catamaran around the world. Right now I'm in the passage between Panama and Galapagos Islands. That's the most difficult passage in this trip. I'm off to French Polynesia. The problem with this is the wind angles have all been very poor for getting to where I want to go to. They've been at the wrong angle. I've had to tack back and forth many times, which is a pain. You have to keep resetting the sails. And then the wind's died out entirely. I mean, down to like 1 knot. You can't sail in 1 knot of wind. But I've taken the sails down. It's 1 o'clock in the morning now. I'm just resting and waiting for the wind to come back up. As I exited the Panama City Bay, there was a big line of freighters and commercial ships across the bay. I estimated those to be 5 miles long. Here's Panama City. It's a big, beautiful, modern city with dozens of skyscrapers. And then when I got out there, each of these triangles is a commercial ship waiting to get through the Panama Canal. There was a lot more than 5 miles worth of them. I'm out beyond the commercial ships. I've turned the motor off, and now it's pure sailing for the next 30 days. Sailing at 7.5 to 8 knots right now. This is the afternoon of the second day. The ocean has calmed down a little bit more now. The waves aren't as big. Still some big ones in there though. And everything you see on a video, if it's got a fisheye lens, it makes the waves look smaller. So the farther away things are, it makes them look even farther away. So it makes them smaller. Dawn of the third day, no wind. Motoring at the moment. Automatic Identification System, AIS, says that there's a cargo ship about 12 miles that direction. But on the ocean you can't see 12 miles because of the curve of the earth. Most you can see under best conditions is about 10 miles. I'm getting periods of modest wind and periods of no wind. The problem is when I get the modest winds, the wind is not from a good angle and I'm having to tack, which is zigzagging back and forth. It adds a lot of distance. Dawn of the third day, no wind. Motoring at the moment. Lots of open ocean. Nothing to see in any direction. Dawn of the fourth day. The wind finally came up again. I put both sails all the way out. So moving along now. Hope the wind lasts. Okay, that V part is an underwater mountain, and I'm up at the top of it. Last night when there was no wind, there's a current that comes up and hits that mountain and splits there. So the eddies of the current were holding me in place there. So I slept for about 6 hours. In an hour or so, I'll be past that underwater mountain, and I'll be past the current that's being compressed because of the mountain and shot up here. Again, my boat is the big black mark. The long line in front of it is the direction I'm going, and the circle is where I'll be in an hour if I stay on the same course and speed. You notice that V shape there, that was that mountain I was on. I'm now up and over here, so I've gotten off it, and I'm away from that terrible current that's in there. The wind has fallen down to about, well, 4.5 knots, less than 5 knots anyway. So I've doused the mainsail, left up the jib, and I do have a breeze here. I get a little movement, so I'm only moving about 1.5 knots. But if I can get 12 knots or 12 nautical miles out of tonight, that's 12 miles I wouldn't have gotten otherwise if I just put the sails down and waited. The dawn of a new day with a big improvement. The wind angle has changed to almost due north. That means I can finally proceed on a diagonal, and instead of having to go horizontal and then vertical, this will cut the time in half. So even if I'm going half speed, it will be just as though I'm going full speed. I decided to put a line and lure out. Often I'm going too fast to make that effective, but today I'm going fairly slow. I'm definitely in international waters because I'm a few hundred miles out. Complete calm tonight. No wind. Matter of fact, I've probably lost some ground just from the current. There are some clouds in the sky tonight though, so maybe we'll get a storm. I'll take a storm. That'll give me some wind either way. I told you I saw clouds and I might get a storm. I just saw lightning that direction. So if I get a storm, I might finally get some strong wind. I hope I get some strong wind. If you ever read any of the Hornblower books about life in the seas in the 1800s, it describes gentle rolling swells, silvery seas, and just perfect calm condition. And that would be today. My first time flying Spinnaker. This came off a racing J-boat. It's really too small, but it's the Spinnaker I have and it's working. I had to improvise the way to mount it because I don't have a bowsprit on this boat. I'm now making 3 knots now downwind at a 10-knot wind. I'd never be making 6 knot at a 10-knot wind if I was tacking back and forth, so the Spinnaker is doing its job. Sunset on the 6th day, and the Spinnaker keeps chugging along. Probably try to run it all night. Last night about 3 a.m. the wind stopped entirely. It went down to 1 knot. I lowered the Spinnaker because I thought I could just put it up again later when the wind picked up again. At 5 a.m. I got up and the wind had picked up a bit, up to 5 knots, but it was from a completely different direction over to my port side. So I had to disconnect all of the Spinnaker and put it in the sail bag and put it in the sail locker and put up the Genoa and the mainsail. I'm going along pretty well now. Most of the time 4 or 5 knots forward speed, but it's in that proper direction, so I can't complain about that. I'm going faster than I would have with the Spinnaker. Beautiful weather today. The wind is only 5 knots, but it's right at the perfect position. On this boat, if it's between 60 and 80 degrees, I can get almost up to wind speed. I'm sailing at over 4 knots and 5 knots of wind, and it's perfectly flat, and that has a lot to do with it. When there's no wind, you don't get many waves. There's just a gentle swell, and nothing as far as the eye can see. This is dawn of the 8th day. Some heavy clouds over there. Had a little lightning over here. The storm over by Costa Rica looks like it's wanting to catch up to me. Lots of clouds today blocking the sun, and my lithium battery set is getting a little low on juice because we've had a couple of storms come in. So what I'm doing today is I'm going to run my portable generator, which I've got shore power cord and an adapter to go into the regular 110 outlet. And then I've flaked the shore power cord so that there are no loops. If you have the coil, the loops all stacked in a coil, they'll build up heat and electromagnetism and could cause a problem like a fire. So if you spread them out like this and they cross over each other, then that doesn't happen. I raised the jib this morning when a little wind came out, but it wasn't very strong and it wasn't a good angle, and couldn't really put the main up because it would cause fluttering. It'll shake your sail apart eventually. I have the sails set for winds up to 30 knots. Right now they're 22, 23 knots. Rough seas, but I'm managing to sail out from underneath these clouds. Looks like I may be heading to another storm. I can see something showing up on radar and there's some lightning flashes over there. Bit rolly on the 8th night of travel. While making fresh water, I had 5 whales surface right next to the boat. Perfectly flat, no wind at all. Flat, flat, flat for as far as the eye can see. There was no wind, so I motored in my most fuel-efficient mode for 5 hours. And now there's a storm up ahead and that's sucking the air in, so I have some wind to sail again. The morning of the 10th day. I'm aiming for this nice little open patch of sky over here. A typical day, I'm using the storm, it's a pretty big storm, about 100 miles away to get the winds to push me forward, and aiming for the blue sky to get some solar to recharge my batteries. Now the idea is to make it under these clouds, and then there's some sunny area beyond that. No clouds where I'm going today, so I should get some good solar. Still, I'm running the generator for as long as I can. Swells today, but no waves yet because the wind hasn't come up. Yeah, I crossed the equator at 5:15 p.m. I'm officially in the southern hemisphere. A golden sunset on day 11.